Happy Easter and welcome to a very special extra tutorial I made for you all. Meet my little Loomigurumi little Chickie. Isn't it cute? I love it so much. I couldn't stop making a lot of these, as you can see here. It is only my second ever Loomigurumi design and tutorial, so please bear with me. But the design itself really isn't hard. It is just that it is a really small, teeny tiny Chickie, so the design itself is a little bit itty bitty fiddly. But I'll go slow and steady so you can just follow along with me, okay, as usual. Now stay tuned until the end of this video because I will tell you some of the special touches you can add to your little Chickie to make it look a little bit different, like the bow in the hair and the little tuft and even a little tail at the back. And of course I will tell you all the tags you can use when you post your little Chickie, so I get to see it too. And I will also tell you how you can contact me if you want me to make a tutorial for one of your own designs. Okay, enough tweedledee tweedledum, let's grab some stuff and let's get looming. Now to make our little Chickie over here, what you will need is your hook, of course. And for Loomigurumi designs, you can usually just use your regular hook or a crochet hook, or there is an awesome new hook I saw in the new Loomigurumi kits from Official Rainbowloom, which is especially designed for Loomigurumi, but I'm sticking to my Loomigurumi hook, however, because I really love using that for hook only designs and Loomigurumi. You will need 3 stitch markers or clips of some sort, easy clips, C-clips. You can even use paper clips, guys, if you don't have stitch markers laying around. It is just, you need 1 clip. I'm going to use my orange one for that to keep count of where we are in the design. And you're going to need 2 clips to clip off the little wings that we will be making first and then loom into the body later, like so, you see? So I clipped that off, so you can also just use a C-clip or whatever you want for that. And you're going to need 2 extra clips to mark certain stitches, as I did here. I marked the stitches here at the bottom of the wing, so I know which bands to grab later when I want to loom my wing into the little birdie. Okay, you can also use a temporary slip knot for that, or yeah, I just find it very easy to use an easy clip for that. I am also, and here comes the loony part of this tutorial, going to use a pen or a pencil or something to put into the Chickie's neck, because it's such a tiny itty bitty design that the bands over here get a little bit tight. Let me show you here. You see, so it's kind of easy, it's kind of hard to keep track of the separate stitches over here because there are only, I believe this is 4. So I just put my pen in there, so it's easier for me to identify the stitches that I need to be working on. You see, like that. You can even pop it out the bottom like this. Oh my god, that looks totally awful. But yeah, it is just something silly that I came up with, and you can just work around it like that, right? It is a bit silly, and your stitch markers and the pen and everything will be constantly in your way, especially because it's such an itty bitty design. But yeah, just bear with me. At the end, it's all worth it, right? You can also stuff the body and head of the Chickie if you want to. I kept a lot of them just empty because it keeps its shape pretty well, as you can see, right? So yeah, that's totally up to you. If you have stuffing, you can definitely use it. I will tell you when is a good time to use that stuffing. And we will be needing some bands, of course. I am going to be using Chickie Yellow again. And you're going to need 2 black bands, or whatever color you want to, of course. 1 for each eye. And 1 orange band I'm going to use for the little beak over here. Of course, you can also use beads for the eyes, or those safety eyes if you have them, whatever you want to. And if you want to make a little bow, let me see, like I have on the Chickie over here, for example, right? You will need some extra bands for that. Or if you want to make one of these male Chickies, you can use some red to create this and this. I'm not sure what it's called in English, so yeah, to accessorize your Chickie. Now please remember, you can always pause the video to catch up, rewind to watch something again, and of course you can always speed me up if I'm going too slow for you. I will always put timestamps in my tutorial, so you can find certain parts really quickly by clicking the timestamps or the chapters in the description box below. I will be posting the pattern in the description box as well. I just hope that I'm writing it all down in easy to follow instructions for you all, because I'm not really familiar with Loomigurumi, so please let me know. I'm new to this, okay? Bear with me. Okay, that's it. Let's hatch our little chickie. Now we're going to start by making one of the little wings first, and then we're going to clip off that wing and put it aside, and then we'll make another one. And when we're making the body of the chickie, we're going to loom those two wings into place. But instead of me filming how to make two identical wings, I'm going to show you how to make one and put a timestamp right here that says making the wings or something like that. So if you're ready to make your second wing, you can always go back to this timestamp and we can make the second wing together, okay? Now we're going to start by placing a cap band on our hook first. And to make the cap band, you simply place the band on your hook, give it a twist and put the other end on your hook, creating your figure 8, which is your cap band. And it's very important that you're sure to identify both loops of the cap band for the next step. So I am definitely using my first stitch marker for that. This is also the stitch marker that I'm going to be using to clip off my wing later and put it aside, okay? So just use a whatever marker or clip that you have for that. And now we're going to be making something which is called a magic ring, and that means that you're going to place some stitches around the cap band, around the circumference of the cap band, and we're going to be making a magic ring of 4 stitches. Now to make a stitch, you pull a band through the cap band, both loops, close it up, and you're going to pull the front part of that loop through the back part, making a slip knot. See, that's a stitch. That's always a stitch in Loomigurumi. Just a single stitch. Now we're going to have to do that 3 more times because we're going to be making a magic ring of 4, as I said. Okay? Now to make the next one, you're going to go back inside that cap band the same way you went in earlier to make that first loop. And you're going to pull through another band, only through the loops of the cap band, close it up, and you're going to make a stitch again. So you're going to pull the front part through the back part, like so, and then we want to sew both our stitches together. So you're going to pull that stitch, that last stitch that you made, through the first stitch that you made, like that, sewing both stitches together. So now we have made one stitch here. A stitch always looks like this, with the teardrop shape. And the second one is on our hook. Okay, so we're going to do that 2 more times. So go back inside the cap band, pick up another band, pull it through the cap band, close it up, make your stitch by pulling the front part through the back part of the band, and then you sew both halves together, both stitches together, like so. So we have 1, 2, 3 stitches now. You see what a stitch looks like? It is this teardrop shape, what we're looking for. Okay, go back inside your cap band to make your last stitch of the magic ring. Pull it through the cap band. Oops, don't lose it. Oh, my lighting is a bit off. Suddenly the sun decides to shine. Springtime, yay! Again, you're going to make a stitch first, so pull the front part of that loop through the back part. And then sew both of the loops together, like so. Now we have made 4 stitches. We see 1, 2, 3 over here, and the 4th one is on our hook. Now I'm going to unclip my stitch marker for now, because it's pretty obvious what the cap band is here, right? And we want to divide these stitches a little bit around the cap band. And what is very important here is to end a round of stitches. What you always do is go back inside the first stitch that you made. And this is how you identify it, right? The teardrop shape. So you go inside that stitch, under it, I should say, picking up both loops of the teardrop shape. And you're always going to add your first stitch of the next round. So exactly the same way you did earlier. Instead of pulling it through the cap band, you're pulling it under the teardrop shape. Pull the front through the back and sew both stitches together like that. And this is also very important. Always clip off that first stitch. So you can never lose count of where you are in the pattern and what round you're working on, okay? So you always clip off your first stitch that's on your hook, okay? Now, this looks like a hot mess right now. What stitches? We can't even see anything that we've been doing. But if you look at the back, you can see this is your cap band. The design is just so tiny that it's a little bit finicky, as I said. And you see 4 stitches here. This is what it looks like from the other side, you see? You'll always have your little thingy here and the 2 bands there. So we have 4 stitches. Now let me open it up at the front a little bit to show you. I don't want to pull on it too hard because that will warp the design a bit, but we have 1 stitch here on our hook. Here we have the other one, that's 2. Here we have 3. Here we have 4. Don't count this stitch over here because that's where our last stitch already is on, right? We already counted that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now for the next round, I want to make a circle of 6 stitches. And we have 4 now. So that means that we're going to have to do 2 increases. It's what it's called. And what an increase is that you make 2 stitches in the same stitch. And I will show you what I mean with that. We have our first stitch already made and I want to increase this stitch. So we picked up our stitch of the previous round here, those 2 loops over here. And to make an increase, you're going to pick up that same loop again and pull another stitch through. That is all you have to do. So you pick up that same stitch again, make another stitch in there. So both stitches together like that. So now you have added 2 stitches on 1 loop. Okay? The next we're going to be picking up will be the next teardrop shape. Here, this one. It is so itty bitty tiny that I hope that you can see it, guys. Here. And we're simply going to make a normal stitch over here. Just a stitch, not an increase, just a single stitch. Pull the front through the back and sew both halves together. And the next one I want to make an increase again. So in stitch 3 of the previous round, which is this one here, I'm going to be making 2 stitches. So the first one I have here, that's 1. And now we're going to go back inside, out of the way, back inside that same stitch next to it. Oops. Make sure to grab both loops and make another stitch right next to it. There, that was the 3rd stitch. And now we're going to go inside the next stitch. Will just be a single one. Pick up both loops of the teardrop shape. Just take your time, open up the design a little bit. It is finicky, as I said, for now. Make a regular stitch. Like that. That was the 4th stitch, and as I mentioned before, now we're back at the first stitch of the round we just made. So we're always going to end each round by putting 1 stitch through the stitch where your stitch marker is on. You always do that. That ends the round and it marks the first stitch of the next round. Okay? So unclip. Don't forget to do that and put your clip on the loop that's on your hook. Okay, that's very important, like that. Now we had 4 stitches and we increased twice. 4 plus 2 is 6, so we should have 6 loops on our hook. 6 stitches going round now. Okay, so we have our first one here, which is on our hook on our stitch marker. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't count this one here because that's where our stitch is on here. See, we already have that stitched. Okay, so we have 6 loops now. Now I want to do the same thing again. I want to increase twice so I get a circle, so I get 8 stitches. And I'm going to increase on stitch 1 and stitch 4. So that means that we already made our first stitch of this round and I want to increase in this stitch. So I'm going to go back inside that same stitch and make a stitch right next to it Then stitch number 2 is a normal one. Make your stitch. Stitch number 3 is a normal one. Oh, come here, you. And stitch number 4 will be an increase. So pick up stitch number 4 and we're going to put 2 stitches in this one. That's our first stitch. Now I'm going to go back inside that same stitch again. And we're going to do that again. Make a stitch right next to it. That's an increase, okay? So we made 2 stitches in 1 loop. Can you see that? You have 1 stitch here and 1 stitch here. This is what it looks like from the back. 2 stitches in 1 loop, 1 here and 1 here. Okay, now we're going to finish off the round with just single stitches until we get back to our stitch marker. So single, and stitch number 6 is also a single. There. And now we're back at our stitch marker. So to close off this round and to start the next round, we're going to make our last stitch in that one. Like that. Unclip and reclip in the loop that is on your hook. Always make sure to do that so you can keep track of where you're at. Okay. So now I had 6 and I increased twice, so I should have 8 loops on my hook. 1 is here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't count this one over here because that's where the stitch is already in. See? Just look from the other side. Maybe that's easier for you to see it. See, your stitch is in here already. So always make sure that you don't count this stitch. Okay, just take your time, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now I am going to smoosh my design flat a little bit because what I want to do now is identify the middle of the bottom of the wing, so to speak. So that's what I did here. I want to mark this stitch over here so that it's easier to identify for me later when I want to sew it into the body. I know what stitch to pick up. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to grab my easy clip, C-clip, whatever you have. And what we're going to do is mark the 4th stitch. So we have 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me see. This is the middle here. This stitch we already have our stitch in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the middle, right? We don't count this one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is where I want you to put your marker on. Whatever you have, use a paper clip. You can even temporarily put a slip knot on here in a band of another color if you want to. But this is what we're looking for, just to mark it, okay? Now we can continue with the rest of the wing. So this thing will be constantly in the way, as will your stitch marker. We're going to make 3 normal stitches. So keep a good eye on it. This one already has a stitch in it because that's the one we have on our hook right now. So we're going to pick up the next one. This one over here. This little birdie has tiny little flappers. And we're going to make 3 normal stitches until we reach the marker. So this is the first one. Don't lose it, Joyce, come here. So that's 1, the next one, 2, and 3 over there. Okay, And now we get to the loop where our marker is in, and we're going to skip that loop. So what we're going to do is pick up the one next to it. So on the other side of the wing, so to speak, if you flattened out your ring, right? I'm going to turn mine around, and you're going to do 3 normal stitches again until you get to the marker. Oops, I shot that one away. So you're going to do 1 normal stitch here, tie them together. So now you kind of tied both halves of the wing together. You're going to pick up the next one. That's 2. And another normal stitch, which is this loop over here. That's 3. Okay, and now we get, oops, almost, oops. I'm saying oops an awful lot. Let's try that again. Another one, there we go. And now we get back to our stitch marker, so we close off the round by putting our last stitch through there. Like so. Unclip and reclip, very important. Always do that like that. Okay, and now we have 7 stitches. It's a bit hard to identify now because this one here is laying sideways, you see? Because we crossed over to the other side and we skipped this one over here. But you have 7 stitches on your hook right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Now we're going to continue the round by making 2 normal stitches. Now this one already has one in it. That's the one that's on my hook. You see? So you're going to pick up the loop next to it. And shot that one away as well. Just make single stitches in the next 2 loops. That's in the first one. And here is the second one. There, and then we get to the loop that is laying vertically. You see this one. We're going to skip that loop, but we are going to pick up the loop where it's resting on. You see that this loop is resting on this stitch over here. Okay, so let me turn it around. You have your vertical loop here, the one we're going to be skipping, and you're going to be picking up the loop where it's resting on, this one. And you're simply going to continue finishing the round with single stitches. So 1 and 2. It's getting a little bit tight in here. Open it up a bit so you can see what you're doing. And the third one is right before the stitch marker. Pick it up. That's the 3rd loop on that side. And you always finish off by putting 1 stitch through the loop where your stitch marker is on. Okay, so we're doing that now too. Pull it through. Stitch marker's in the way, but that's okay. It's my bestie, so it's allowed to be in the way. There. Now we can clip off and clip on. And that is actually 1 wing made. Like that. See, we have a nice crossover pattern happening here, and we clipped off 1 stitch here at the bottom so we can identify it later. That's 1 wing made. Okay, so now you need to go back to where it says making the wings or something like that, to that timestamp, so you can make your 2nd wing, and then I will meet you back here and we can continue making the body together. So now that you have both of the little flappers made, we're going to be making the body and head in one go, and we'll pick up the wings along the way and loom them into the body. So keep them closed, right? And make sure that you made both of them. And to make our little chickie's body and head, we're going to start from the bottom up. And then along the way, we're going to sew in the little wings, and then we're going to continue making the body, the head and the face. Okay? Now to get started, we're going to have to make a cap band again. So you put your band on your hook and give it a twist and make your cap band. And I am going to put my stitch marker in there again because I just find it easier. And we're going to make a magic ring of 6 this time. So that means that we're going to add 6 stitches on our cap band. So you're going to make your first stitch by pulling your band under both loops of the cap band. Close it up, pull the front through the back and make your first stitch. We're going to do that 5 more times. So go in, always make sure that you go in through the same side of the cap band and pull through 5 more stitches this way. Make a stitch and sew them together. 4 more times. We make our stitch and we sew them together. And again. And again. Oops. And I already lost count. How about you guys? So let me see how many we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches made. This little loopy here is part of this stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 on my hook. So 1 more for me. There. Now that is our magic ring of 6. And as I said before, you're always ending each round by making your next stitch into the first stitch of the round that you're working on. So you're closing off your round and marking the first stitch, which is this one, of the next round. Okay? Always put a marker on that stitch so you can't lose count. Okay, so now we have 6 loops on our hook, 6 stitches I mean, and now I want to increase every other stitch until we have a total of 9 stitches in a circle. Okay, now I'm going to start by increasing my first one, so I'm going back inside that first stitch and make another stitch in there. So that's my first increase. Every other one, so the second one is a normal stitch, a single, I think I had the cap band with me there, so let's do that again. The next one is a single, sew them together, and then stitch number 3 will be an increase again. So we pull through 1 stitch. Oh, don't lose it, 1 stitch. Come on, don't be stubborn. And we're going back inside that stitch next to the one we just made and make it a double. So we increase there. The next one is a single again. There we go. And the one after that is an increase again. So we increased every other one. Make another one right next to it. And then just finish off the round as usual. So the next one is a single. And then you get back to the stitch where your stitch marker is on. So to finish off the round, we're going to put our last stitch through there. Unclip your clip and put it on the loop that's on your hook. Very important. Okay, so now we have 9 loops on our hook. This is the one where my stitch is currently in, so I'm starting counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, now I want to do 3 increases again, but we're going to increase every third. So that means I'm going to increase the first, then 2 will be singles, then the third will be a double, 2 will be singles, and so forth. While my cat is casting a shadow. Okay, so we're going to increase the first, go back in that same stitch, and make another stitch right next to it. Then we're going to do an increase on every third. So 1 is a single, 2 is a single, and 3 is a double, an increase. So go back in next to it and make another stitch here. Then we're going to do 2 singles again. This piece is a little bit better to handle than the little bitty wing that we were working on, you see, because it's wider and more open, so you can see what you're doing a little bit better. But it's still tiny and maybe finicky for some. That was our second single. The third one will be a double, an increase. That's 1. Let me see what I did. My cat was distracting me. Then we're going to go for singles again and finish off the round as usual. Single and single, and then we get to the stitch where our stitch marker is on. So to finish off the round, you're going to put 1 stitch through there. And we increased every third, a total of 3 times. So now we have 12 loops, 12 stitches in the round. So let's count that. Make sure to unclip and reclip. And see what we got. We have 1 stitch on our hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Make sure that you don't count this one because that's where your last stitch is on, right? So always take time to figure that out. This one we don't count because that's where our current stitch is on, okay? Now I want to do the same thing again, going to increase every third stitch, but we're going to do that a total of 4 times now until we have 16 stitches going around. Okay, I'm going to start by increasing my first stitch immediately. So another stitch right next to the one we already had. And we're going to increase, as I said, every third. So 1 single. And the second is a single. And then we're going to do an increase in the next one. That's 1. Go back inside that same stitch and pull another hook through, a loop through there. That's your increase on the third again. So we're going back to doing 2 singles. I hope I'm explaining it all well for you guys, but please drop a comment and give me tips because I bet you I need them. 2 singles. Filming Loomigurumi is very, very out of my comfort zone. That was 2 singles. We increase on the third. back in. That is our increase. Now we do 2 singles again. That's the first one. And that is the second one. And now we're going to do our increase. So we'll go back inside that same loop. And make another stitch right next to its body. Like so. And now we're going to finish off the round as usual, you see? So that means that we do 2 singles in stitch 11 and in stitch 12. And then we get to our stitch marker again. So we're finishing off the round by putting our last stitch in that loop, marking the first stitch of the next round. Unclip your stitch marker or clip whatever you have and put it on the loop on your hook. There. And now you should have 16 stitches going round. Wow, this is a little bit easier to handle than the teeny tiny flappers, right? Those were so small. Okay, so we have, this is not our first stitch because here is our stitches on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16 here. So that's excellent. So what we're going to do now is make one full round of just 16 single stitches. But what I want you to do is grab your first wing. Keep that handy because at the last stitch in the marker, when we finished our round, we are going to loom in the bottom of our first wing. Okay, so make sure you have your wing ready. Okay, now the first stitch we already made, so I need to make 15 more, just single stitches finishing off the round. Okay, I will just do that in silence so I can speed up the video for you all. So press pause until you're caught up and you're at the last stitch, okay? And this is stitch number 16. So now we get back to our stitch marker. What I want you to do now is just put your hook through as usual. Pick up your little flapper, your little wing, and identify the band that you have marked with your stitch marker, easy clip, or whatever you used for it, and go through that band. So those are 2 loops, right? Go through those. If you want, you can unclip now because you don't need that marker anymore. Let me see if I can get it off. And there. Okay, so first you went through the normal stitch that you have your stitch marker on, then you picked up that stitch from the bottom of the wing, so make sure that you're picking it up like this with the top of the wing pointing away from your hook. See what I'm doing? So this is the wing, so don't pick it up like this, but pick it up with your marker, which marks the top of the wing, pointing away from you like that. Okay? Then you're going to make a stitch as usual, but you're going to go through both of the loops of that wing and the regular stitch that's where your stitch marker is on, like that. Just make your regular stitch by grabbing 4 loops, you see? Make your regular stitch and sew them together, like that. And that finishes off the round. So you unclip your stitch marker and you reclip on the loop that is on your hook. Okay, so now we have 16 loops going around because we made singles and we picked up the bottom of our first wing, like so. Okay. Okay, so now that we have done that, ignore your little flapper being in the way over there. We have our 16 stitches in the round. What we're going to do this round is decrease because we want to go from 16 stitches to 12. So we're going to have to decrease 4 times and we're going to do that every third again. But because on the first one here I have my little wing, I'm going to start by doing a decrease on the next stitch, so on the second one. Now this one over here, this one here is where your wing is on, see? Make sure to identify that correctly. And the next one, stitch 2, is over here. Now to make a decrease, what you do is we want to tie 2 stitches together. So we're left with just 1. And to do that, you're going to pick up the front part here of this loop of the first stitch and the back part of the next stitch, like that. So you have 2 loops on your hook, again, as usual actually, but it's just 2 stitches that we're going to be stitching together. Okay, so you're going to make your stitch as usual, just tying those together and tying it together with your first stitch, of course. Now this is the one that we already had, so the second one will be a normal stitch because we're going to be decreasing every third, as I said. There. There, 2 normals, and the third one we're going to be decreasing, which is actually our 5th stitch. So I'm sorry, I went too fast. Let me show you that again. So you're going to pick up the front part of the first stitch and the back part of the next stitch, and then you're going to tie these together, make your stitch as usual, tie both stitches together again, and on the next stitch what I want you to do, this is your 6th stitch, which is opposite of this wing over here. I want you to sew in the second wing that you got. So we're going to identify the bottom of our wing again, which is marked if you've done it correctly, right? This one. And you want the tip of the wing to be pointing away from you. And you go in from the bottom, you pick up those 2 bands that you clipped off, that you marked. Okay, you can unclip now if you want to, so that that clip isn't in the way too much. Whoops. And now you're going to make a stitch as normal, but you're going under 4 loops instead of 2. The 2 of the wing and the 2 regular ones. Okay, so that's our single stitch again, like that. Okay, so that's on this one. Here we go with another single. So that's 2 singles, and we wanted to decrease every third. So the next one is a decrease again. So we're going to pick up the front part of that loop and the back part of the next loop. Okay, and make a stitch as usual. Like that. Keep a good eye on what stitches you actually sewn together, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to see. This one you already have, so we're going to do 2 singles again. 2 regular stitches is what I mean to say. A regular one here and another one. That's 2. And then we're going to be doing another decrease on the third, our last one. So we've done that 4 times in total. Pick up the front loop of the first stitch and the back loop of the stitch after that. Okay, make your stitch as usual, tying those 2 stitches together, and finish off the round as normal. So you have 1 stitch left, and your flappers are in the way all over the place. A single stitch there, and if I'm correct, yes, to finish off the round we get back to our stitch marker over here. So we're going to put our last stitch through there, finishing off the round and marking the first stitch of the next round. Okay, unclip and reclip, never forget that. And when we started we had 16 stitches and we decreased 4 times. 16 minus 4 is 12, so we have 12 stitches in the round now, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? To continue, what we're going to be doing is decreasing again in this round. But when you get to the last stitch, which will be where your marker is, we're going to grab the top of the wing. Okay, so slow down when you get to that. We're going to decrease every 3rd stitch again. Okay, I'm going to start by decreasing the 2nd because the first stitch I already made. So I'm going to decrease the 2nd stitch by grabbing the front and the back of the next stitch, sewing those 2 stitches together. Then we're going to do 2 single stitches, regular stitches again, because we're going to decrease every 3rd, as I said. So the first is a regular over here, another one. My goodness, everything is in the way. A regular one, and then we're going to do a decrease again. Now just open up your creation, what you made so far a little bit, so you can actually see what you're doing. The last stitch I made is here. Let me see. Yes, is here. So decrease, you grab the front of the first one and the back of the other one, sewing those 2 stitches together with your regular stitch. Okay, like so. Then the next 2 stitches will be just regular stitches. 1 and 2. And then we get to our 3rd stitch, so that will be a decrease again. Finicky finicky. Grab the front of the first and the back of the second. Come here, where are you? There. And there we go. And then our little hole is getting smaller and smaller, you see? Now we're going to do the last stitch right before our stitch marker is a regular one. There. And now we get to our stitch marker, and as I said before we started, we're going to sew in the top of our wing. So you're going to grab that stitch first where the stitch marker is on, pick up that stitch first, like usual, put it on your hook like so. Then you're going to identify the top of the wing, which is where that loose loop is on and your stitch marker is on. But what I want you to do is pick up 1 loop that you see below it. Okay, you have these shapes over here. Just pick up 1 of the loops that you see, the first one that you encounter actually. Not these, because that's where your loop is through. This is your stitch here. See? So just go a little bit below and you see one that is at an angle, a little bit. This one over here. See? Just pick that one up and then go through the loop where your stitch marker is on. Now you can unclip if it's safe and sound on your hook. Make sure you don't lose it or your wing will fall apart. We'll have a Nemo-like bird, so don't do that. And now you're doing the same thing as you did with the bottom of the wing. You're going to do a regular stitch, but you're just going through 4 loops. See the 2 you just picked up and the 2 that are in your stitch marker. Make your regular stitch and sew them together. And that is the first stitch of the next round made already. We went in the marker, right? So unclip and reclip. There. And your first flapper is attached. So we already have some action going here. Okay, now we decreased 3 times this round, every third. So we went from 12 to 9 stitches, okay? So make sure that you count it. You should have 9 stitches right now going round. And now we're going to decrease again. We're going to decrease every other stitch 3 times until we have a total of 6 stitches going round. So this is a very good time to decide if you want to put stuffing in your lower body of your chick or not, because the hole will be getting smaller. So yeah, I feel like it holds its shape really well. So stuffing isn't necessary, but if you want it like a little squishy, it is very pleasant to have some stuffing in there, of course, but that's totally up to you. Okay, now, so as I said, we're going to be decreasing every other stitch. And on the 3rd stitch, we're going to sew in the top of our 2nd wing. Okay, this is our 1st stitch. Our 2nd one will be a decrease. So I'm going to pick up the the front of the 1st and the back of the 2nd over here. And then we're going to put a stitch through there as usual. So that was our 2nd stitch of this round. The first one is where our stitch marker is on. Whoops, I lost it there. Okay. And the 3rd, as I said, we're going to pick up the top of our next wing, of our 2nd wing. Now this is the one we decreased. Make sure you open up your design a bit, guys, your creation. So because the stitches have a tendency to be a bit hidden now, of course. Now it's so tight up here. So open it up a little bit so you can identify that this here is the 3rd stitch. Put your hook through just like we did with the other one. Put your hook through first. Then you go to the top of the wing over here. And you're going to pick up one of the bands you see down here. The first one that is laying vertically, horizontally, depends on how you look at it. Okay, pick up one of those loops just to give it a little bit extra security. Then you're going to pick up the loop that is on your stitch marker, which is loose, so be careful. Make sure that it's on your hook before you take out your stitch marker. Now you're going to make a stitch as usual. Just pull it under those 2 loops of the wing and under the 2 regular loops. Okay, make your stitch and sew it together like so. And that was a single stitch, so the next one will be a decrease again. So make sure you open up your design to see what you're doing. This one here, get out of the way. This one here we have already captured, so we're going to grab the next one, decrease, so we pick up the front of this one and the back of the next one, pull a stitch through as usual. That's our 2nd decrease of this round. Okay, the next one is just a regular stitch. Up, up. Finicky, 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 finicky. And there we go. And then the next one will be a decrease again, which will be the 2nd to last and the last stitch that you're going to do. And that finishes off the round. So that means that you put your last stitch through the one where your stitch marker is on. Make sure to pick up both of the loops, Joyce. Where are you? Even I am struggling with this. Struggling with my chickie. Make a stitch in there. There we go. Unclip and reclip. So you mark the start of the next round. Now, as you can see, we really have a little chicken neck over here because it's totally closed up. You can hardly see what you're doing. There should be 6 stitches in here, but who can tell, right? So here is the goofy part of this tutorial. As I said, just take a pencil or something. Don't pull on it too hard because it will really stretch out the bands and make the slip knots really tight. The stitch is really tight, so it warps the design a little bit. It warps the neck a bit. It will get a little bit of a bigger neck, right? So make sure that you open up your design, open up the neck, and put a pencil in there, or maybe you have a shorter pencil than this marker here that I am using, which might be easier, but put it in there so you can actually see what you're doing. Let me see if I did that correctly. Yes. Okay, so don't yank on it too hard because it will really warp the stitches. So you should have 6 stitches now around your pencil, which looks really funky like this, but this is the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here on the other side is number 6. And this one here, don't count that one because that's where your stitch is on, okay? Now, don't get scared, but we're going to decrease again. We're going to decrease twice on the second stitch and the fourth, so that we end up with 4 stitches to finish off our little chicken neck, okay? So let me put my hook back in. This is the first stitch, so we already did that. So now we are going to pick up the front of this loop, which is actually down here now, which is a little bit hard to see. Let me see if I can bring it up closer to the camera. See? At this point, it doesn't really matter much, but grab one loop of this stitch and the other, and one loop of the other stitch to make your decrease, okay? That will just look better. So these stitches together again. Just work around your pencil. It's a workaround. That's one. Okay, so we grabbed this stitch over here. The next one, which is here, will be, I'm sorry, I'm going one too far, I think. Here is a regular stitch. That's a normal one. Let's do that. And the next one will be a decrease again. So this here is the normal one we just did. Okay, that's this loop here. And the next one is a decrease again. So grab one of the loops of that stitch and one of the loops of the next. Sew those together with a stitch. Oh my God, you're going to hate me for this being so finicky, right? Please no hate, please. Make a stitch, and then to finish off the round, put your last stitch where your stitch marker is. Like that. And since the hole is even smaller now, because we decreased twice from 6 stitches, so that means that we are left with 4 stitches now. So just keep the pencil in there, or you will definitely lose your sanity. Even more than I lost mine already. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, because this over here is where our current stitch is on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we're going to do to get started on our head is increase all 4 of these stitches. So we get a total of 8 loops. Okay, so we can continue now making the head and face our little hatchling. Okay, so as I said, we're going to make the little head and face of our little chickie now. And as I said before, we're going to be increasing all 4 stitches now. And then we can finally take this annoying pencil out, okay? Because then we will have something substantial to work with again. So to increase, we're going to go back inside that same stitch that we have on our hook right now where the marker is in. That's the first one we're going to increase. Okay, so put an extra stitch in there. Oops, shot that one to the moon as well. The moon must be so colorful with all the bands everyone keeps shooting over there. Okay, that's the first increase. Now we're going to grab this stitch over here. So let's do that. And this one, make sure you grab both loops every time. Increase this one. I haven't found another workaround for this issue in this tiny design, but yeah, I'm not very proficient with Loomigurumi yet. So if you have another way, please let me know. Okay, increase this one so it has 2 stitches in this stitch as well. Go over to the next one. Make 2 stitches over here. Let me see, that is 1 and another one. 2. Okay, and our next stitch is over here, number 4, right before the marker. Put 2 stitches in there. That's 1. And that's 2. And then as usual, to finish off the round, we are going to put one last stitch in the one where our stitch marker is on to finish off the round. And that's the first stitch of the next round again. Oops. There, unclip and reclip. And take out the pencil now. And if we've done it correctly, we should have 8 stitches at the start of our head of our little chickie right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't count that one over here because that's where this stitch is on. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I did that correctly. Now we are going to increase these stitches twice. We're going to increase on the 2nd and the 6th stitch. So we get 10 stitches, but on stitch 8, we're going to make a beak. So just follow along with me and everything will be all right. Well, we'll see about that, but we're going to increase on the 2nd and the 6th stitch. As I said, this is the first, so we're going to start with an increase on the 2nd stitch. So make this a double. 1, go back in. And that's 2. And then grab the 3rd. That's just a single. No, oh, don't lose it. The 4th is a single. And our 5th is a single. This one. And then on 6 we're going to do a double stitch again, an increase. And that's here on the side. 6. That's 1. Go back in, opening up a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see what I'm doing, hopefully. I had to turn on some artificial light because it was getting dark here. Filming Loomigurumi takes a long time. Okay, that's a double. Now we have our 7th stitch. And as I said, on the 8th stitch, I want to make the little beak of the hatchling. Now I must say, I made a few of these little chickies, and sometimes, somehow, depending on what bands I used or how tight my stitches were, perhaps, that 8th stitch wasn't exactly in the middle of the of the face, right? So if you feel like you're a little bit too far to the right or to the left, just choose another stitch to place the beak on, okay? You can figure that out yourself, I think. In this case, the stitch that I'm going to have to pick up, number 8, is, let me see, this one over here. Now, if I turn it around a little bit, I think that's right smack dab in the middle, right? So I'm going to pick one of my bands that I'm going to use to make the beak, orange in my case, and I'm going to make a triple cap band. So 1, 2, 3, keep that on my hook. What you can also do, of course, is put the triple cap band on a band first. That's just a matter of personal preference, I guess. I do it like this. Now you take your next stitch, your next band for the next stitch, and you put the triple cap band on that band, like that. And you, of course, you can prepare this beforehand as well, right? And then you're just going to make your stitch as usual. So pull it through, close it up like that, make your stitch as usual. That was the 8th stitch, and the other one is here in our stitch marker. So to close up the round, we're going to pull one band through there as well. Finish off our round, I mean. What's going on? There. Tie it off. There. Now we should have a little beak already. See if it's in the middle a little bit. You can always fix it later. Okay, well, at least we have a little beak going on now, right? Now to continue, we should have 10 stitches on our Chickie right now, because we started with 8 and we increased twice, so we have 10 stitches now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make sure that you count yours as well. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to increase twice until we have 12 stitches. But when you get to the last stitch, I want you to slow down, because the last stitch we're going to place the left eye of our little Chickie. Okay, now I'm going to increase on the second stitch immediately. Now this is the first, so I'm going to increase on this one. So make a double stitch over here. That's one. Go back in, make my second. Oops. And there. And now we do a few singles until we get to the 6th stitch, and there we're going to do an increase again. That's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, grab them both. And go back in and make it a double. Okay. And then you finish off the round until you get to the stitch marker, just with singles. Oh, come back. There. And there we go. And now we are at the marker, and we're going to place our first eye over here. Now let's check if that is a good placement. I think it is. So I'm just going to stick to my pattern and put my hook through first, just like we did with the beak. Grab one of the bands you want to use as your eye and make a quadruple cap band. So 4. Wrap it around your hook 4 times. It is 1, 2, 3, 4. Or put this quadruple cap band on your band first, of course, but I do it like this. And then I'm going to slide my cap band on that new stitch. Same thing as with the beak, pull it through. Make my stitch as usual, just ignore that the cap bands are there. Pull it through and sew it together. And this was in the stitch marker, so unclip and reclip. There, and now we have our first eye made. Ah, look at it winking at us, how cute. So, and we increased twice, so we should have 12 stitches going round now, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Thank goodness I did that correctly. What we're going to do now is decrease on the second and the sixth stitch again until we get a total of 10 stitches. But in stitch 9, on this side here, we're going to place the other eye, of course. Okay, so we're going to decrease the second one. Here is the first stitch, so the second stitch gets decreased. 2. Okay, 3 is a normal one. My fourth is a normal one. My fifth is a normal one. There. And now we're going to do a decrease again. So I'm grabbing the front and the back of the next loops. And decrease over here. Ideally, your increases and decreases should not be around the face. That just looks better because an increase, as you can see here, always leaves a bit of a hole, you see? But we'll just pretend that we don't see that. Now we continue to our 7th stitch. Let me see. I think that this is a little bit too far to the left to put our eye in. What do you think? I think we better put it one stitch further. So I'm just going to do a normal stitch here. If not, I'm just going to show you how I'm going to fix it. Put it in there. Sometimes you just need to wing it. Okay, put the quadruple cap band on my hook again. There. Okay, and pull my stitch through. Put the cap band on my band. Finicky, finicky. There we go. I always push it to the end a little bit and make a stitch as normal. There. Did we do that correctly or is it now cross-eyed? I think that's okay, right? And then we just finish off the round as usual. So this is where my eye is in. So I have a stitch over here to do. And we decrease twice. So we should have 10 stitches now, if I'm not mistaken. There. I hope that I'm filming this well enough for you guys. It's really, I don't know, it's hard. Please, if you have tips, I can definitely use them. There we go. And now, as I said, we should have 10 stitches. Let's count those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is correct. Does this look okay? I think it does. So what we're going to do now is make this hole even smaller. So we're going to decrease 3 times every other stitch on 2, 4, and 6 until we have a total of 7 stitches. So this is stitch number 1. We already have that. On stitch 2, we're going to decrease. So make a decrease. 3 is a regular stitch. just a single normal stitch every other. So 4 is a decrease again. 5 is a regular stitch. And 6 is a decrease again. There, and then we finish off the round as normal. 7. So we ended with 7 stitches this round. We started with 10, we decreased 3 times, so that means that we end with 7 stitches. And of course, our last stitch goes in the marker, in the stitch where the marker is on, as usual. Like that. Take out the marker and put it back in. Okay. There, and that is the end of the pattern. And now, of course, what you can do is stuff the head if you want to. This is your last chance to do that. And if you want to make a little tuft, like I did here to close up that gap, of course, you simply grab whatever 2 or 3 bands in whatever color you want to, of course, because you don't have to make it the same color as the rest of the chickie. You can choose that yourself. I made it a different color here. So I'm going to grab 2 for now. And first you're going to choose a band that sits on the opposite of the band that you have on your hook right now. It doesn't really matter which one, but I'm going to grab this over here. That's kind of dividing the head in half, right? You're going to pull through both of those bands simultaneously under that band as if you're making a stitch, but you're pulling it through the loop of the stitch that's on your stitch marker as well. Close it up and you're going to make a slip knot here. So I'm doing it like this. I'm pulling my back 2 bands over the front 2. Like that, and then just pull it tight. Grab a hold of the head here so you don't warp it too much. Like that, give it a little pull and let go. So we have our little tuft over here. Okay, and that is our little chickie made. But stay hanging here, I'm going to show you some finishing touches we can do, okay? Quick, 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 quick. Okay, now for some finishing touches. If you look at the difference between these 2 little Tweety birds over here, you can see that the one we just made has its wings spread out as if it's going to fly away. And this little girl over here has her wings a little bit more tucked in. And to get that effect, what I did was just bound the wings together at the back a little bit. You see here, just with a band and a slip knot in it. But I will show you how you can do it. It's not that hard, and it's literally winging it a little bit. We're going to tuck these wings back, and I'm going to grab a few bands here at the wing, go through the back and just grab a few loops over here and a few loops in the other wing like that. Then you grab one of your chickie colored bands and you pull it through all those. So make sure that you grab a good hold of it, pull it through all the loops on your hook like that. And then you're going to make a slip knot. Now what I do before I make the slip knot is check at the front a little bit if the wings are tucked in the way I want to and that's not like crooked or whatever. Okay, so, and then you're just making a slip knot as I said. So you pull one of the bands through the other, give it a good tug. Make sure your band doesn't snap. I had that happen. I was a bit too enthusiastic. Okay, there. Now they're a little bit more tucked in. And to hide this little loop over here, you just go inside the wing, come out at the top, grab that loop, and just hide it in the wing. No one will know. Like that. See? And of course, you can create a little bow here at the top, like I did with the other girl. Now, there must be cuter ways to do that. I just haven't found them out yet. So I just chose the simple way. I put my hook through a few loops here at the top, at the front of the slip knot, you see? So you have the slip knot of the little tuft over here, and I'm just grabbing a few loops at the front here, not too many, like that, and then just pull through 2 or 3 bands, whatever you want to, like that. I think that's pretty cute enough, right? How cute. Now, of course, what you can also do is, where do I have my little fella chickie over here, is make it a little bit more male looking by creating, what's this called, guys? A mohawk? I think it's a mohawk in English, right? And a little chin flap here to give it more of a male appearance. So what I did, instead of, when you close up the head of your chickie, instead of pulling through your chickie colored bands, you're going to pull through 2 of your mohawk colored bands. I think it's called a mohawk. I am really not sure. Drop a comment, so teach me some English. I can use it. So you're going to pull these 2 bands through and make the slip knot with those. Then you already have the start of your mohawk made, right? Here. And then I'm just going to hide a little bit of the excess at the back. So go in through the bottom of the head, come out at the top a little bit. Let me come out here and pull the 2 loops down a bit, like so. You can always fiddle around with it a little bit to give it more of the look that you want. And to make the rest of the stripes, what I tried to do was just make some slip knots. So I don't know, I just totally winged it. There must be easier or better ways to do that, but I just thought I'd do it like that. Just quick and easy. Like that. Make a slip knot. Like that, and then I did another slip knot, I believe, below it. Like that. And just hide the little tufts. Or you can keep them sticking up, of course, matter of personal preference. There, you see, you have the start of your mohawk made already. Just to hide them, just grab them from the inside, so to speak, and just hide the excess loops in the middle of the head. No one will know. There. You have a chance they come undone, of course, because I am not a pro. And to make the little chin flap, I kind of did the same thing. I went in under the beak a little bit, just chose a band that would be suitable, like these over here. I think that will work. Just pull through a red band. Whoops, let's try that again. Pull through a red band, made a slip knot. Made this a little bit of a tighter slip knot. Now this is a really big chin flap. Of course you can keep it like this if you want to, but I also hid the excess in the middle a little bit, so like that. Well, that's a little bit crooked, but I think you got the idea, right? There we have it, my little chickie. Perfect start for Easter and a perfect start for spring. Well, that was it for today, my Easter bunnies. I hope you all liked making my little chickie and that it wasn't too hard or finicky for you. I really loved making a few of these cuties once I figured out a pattern. Now, when you have made this little cutie and you post it on social media, please don't forget to tag me in the pictures and use the hashtags you see on your screen right now so I can see them too. Of course, I will post these in the box below as well as usual. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel with the button you see right here, and come find me on Instagram and Facebook too for more of my content and creations. The link to those is in the description box below as well, and I do give sneak peeks over there of upcoming tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to message me here on Facebook or on Instagram. You're always welcome with me, and should you have made a design you want me to make a tutorial for, feel free to contact me for that as well. Now stay tuned, turn on your notifications so you don't miss more of my content and tutorials. Happy Easter everyone, and stay colorful, stay creative, but most of all, stay loony. That's all folks.